Are you allowing the school students to visit your area?
Pardon?
School students.
Yeah.
Is it possible to visit that area?
Is it possible to see Hanifaru Bay for students? There is, the government has put in place a special rate for Maldivians to visit Hanifaru Bay. Unfortunately, there's no organized trips to Hanifaru, and this is something, actually, it's great that you're bringing up that point, because it's something that I feel a lot for, taking young students to Hanifaru and see what's happening there. We've been trying to work together with the Environmental Protection Agency to organize trips or even close Hanifaru Bay. This would be my personal suggestion. Close Hanifaru Bay 1 day a month from tourists and dedicate it only for Maldivians and local people, and even provide free trips there. So far this is not in place, but here I'm saying it. We as the Manta Trust would be very supportive into taking those kids and teaching them and accompanying them to Hanifaru Bay, and I hope the government will support such a program, and especially since Batol is a biosphere reserve and education is the main tool to make a biosphere reserve successful. There's no better way than taking young students to visit this site and learn and understand more about it. We've been taking students in the past years. There's been, obviously that was supported by resorts. There's been also some accidents in the past, not in Hanifaru, but I'm not going to go into details, and that caused a responsibility problem. So we are hoping that governmental parties and agencies will take the lead on this, and we'll be able to support as much as we can from our side in terms of knowledge and accompanies those trips. But yeah, welcome.
Hi, do you hear me? Okay, I have two questions actually. How is the whole protection now financed? How do you finance the rangers and the management?
It's sort of self-financed, self-sustained. Entering Hanifaru requires tokens, which are sold by the Environmental Protection Agency. The revenue that is created through tourism in Hanifaru then sustain the marine protected area. So this is the idea is of a marine protected area which is self-sustained, doesn't need any income coming from elsewhere. Also, site users of Hanifaru Bay pay an annual fee to be part of the biosphere reserve and to be able to use the site. So again, this is money that goes into the biosphere reserve, which should support the management of the marine protected area, but also other conservation programs and education programs and development programs for local communities. Yeah.
And my second question is, do you have any reports on poaching? Are there still
On
poaching? Are there still illegal
poaching mantas?
Yeah, exactly.
No one does. Again, there's been no record of fished manta or killed manta. The trading ban is very well regulated, and that doesn't happen. In the past, there's been very occasional sighting of that mantas were used for one shark fishing when was still in place, but not anymore.
Yeah, about the scientific research you did just to check the abundance of the manta rays. Were there any measures taken not to count the same manta ray twice?
In Hanifaru?
Yeah.
Was there any resighting mantas coming twice? That's what you asked?
My question is, were there any measures taken not to count the same manta ray twice while you were actually counting the abundance of manta rays while you were doing that research?
Sorry, can you repeat? Sorry.
Okay. My question is, were there any measures taken to actually see if you are not counting the same manta ray twice? You mentioned about research.
The impact, you mean, yeah. The tourism impact?
No, you mentioned about a research which you did. You said there were 450 manta rays in that area, right?
In Hanifaru, 250, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay, you're asking if
yes.
Maybe there was we overcounted the mantas, and
yes.
right, that didn't happen. The way we identify mantas, which the same way Anne-Marie does. It's through photo identification. So using a picture of each manta, I can show you. The ventral side of a manta has a unique spotting pattern, just like a fingerprint. Here. How do we know there were 250 mantas? We actually took more than 250 pictures of ventral sides of the individuals, and each one of them has a unique marking on their between their gills, which we call primary ID area. And so we can distinguish them, we can follow their movements, we can see how often they come to a certain site, how important it is, males or females, do they behave differently, do they move differently, etc. So on that particular day, we had more than 250 images, and out of all the images we collected, there were 251 different individuals, different patterns. So we are certain that it was 250, probably even more, because obviously when there's so many mantas and we're there taking pictures, we lose one or two, probably even more. So it's not unlikely that there were more than 300 individuals on that day. So I would say 250 is even an underestimated number of mantas in Hanifaru that day. That doesn't happen obviously every day, but it can be.
My second question is, you mentioned about the sustainability of the conservation will depend on the awareness of the locals in that area, right?
Absolutely.
Are you doing any activities to create awareness in among the locals in the area?
We are planning a festival, a biosphere festival, but last year we've started, as a Manta Trust, we started an educational program in Ba Atoll. So we visited 5 local islands, and one of young guy that works with us, Musa, he's a Maldivian, very, very smart, very passionate. He went to 5 different local islands and gave presentations to over 1,000 students about the importance of manta conservation, about what mantas are and what they have on their doorstep. Also, the resort I work in receives students from different local islands, take them on a tour to the Marine Discovery Center, and obviously we as the Manta Trust, we give presentation on mantas and try to teach them more. Again, the aspect that we're trying to develop again is taking those kids out for excursions, because there's no better way to actually appreciate something than see it. This is something we would really like to work on with government. Yeah.
Hi, how much work have you been doing for the rangers to aware on the sightings and to give information to the liveaboards?
About how to follow the guidelines.
Yeah.
Well, this is again the Minister of Environment. Basically, well, the official legislation was gazetted, so everybody was aware about what the legislations were. And
I mean, for the rangers there.
Right.
I have personal experience with them.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a few months before.
Right.
And when we called them, they said that there was only few sightings of the rays. But when we go in, we almost counted more than 100 manta. Because for them, it's not that being identified how they are sighting it. So
right.
My question is, how much awareness are you giving to the rangers?
That's actually a good point. It's something that probably I haven't thought of it, but we should work on. Probably, the rangers obviously have a training sent by the Environmental Protection Agency about Hanifaru Bay. They know exactly what the legislation are, what the regulations and guidelines in the site are, but probably they're not much aware about the actual biological aspect of mantas. Something that it's actually a great point, and thanks for raising it. It would be great to actually develop a short educational program with the tourists, with the rangers. As you said, there were only 1 or 2 mantas at that moment, but Hanifaru Bay, it's very sensitive to the tidal cycle. So an hour before you might have only 2-3 mantas, but as the tide starts to rise, then all of a sudden you can have 50-60. And if rangers are not aware of it, then that's why you probably got the misinformation about only 2-3 mantas. Someone who knew about how Hanifaru Bay works in biological terms might have been able to tell you now there's only 2-3, but the tide is rising now, the conditions are getting better for mantas, so in an hour there might be more. But also actually the point of having a group of patrolling rangers is they should be there patrolling the site basically throughout the entire day, because people resort and liveaboards can show up at any time, tourists can show up at any time, and they should be there to first collect the token, second, make sure the regulations are enforced. So their lack on site is something that should still be worked on, I think.
So in Hanifaru Bay, does Four Seasons have exclusivity?
Absolutely not.
I'll email you some photos of why I'm saying this.
Why are you saying that?
Because we've been sighting of like few people handling mantas and also whale sharks.
Handling?
Yep.
What do you mean, like touching?
Touching and getting rides on it.
Well, that still happens. Happens for well, it's obviously related, first of all, to a lack of a good briefing on the boat, and this is fundamental. Guides that take guests on a site at Hanifaru Bay should know exactly what the regulations are, what the penalties are for breaking those regulations. And this is why the Environmental Protection Agency put on a course for a Hanifaru guide tour guide. And obviously, if some resorts then don't send those guides with the guest or don't brief them appropriately, these kind of behaviors can happen. I know last year, for example, I had a very good example from a guide on a resort. I'm not going to say which. One of their guests, it was not for season, just for your information, but one of their guests dove down to grab a manta. Immediately, he got out of the water. He got sent out of the water inside the boat and didn't come in the water again. But this is thanks to the knowledge of the guide and the passion of the guide. Some other guys might not care. And also, obviously, the ranger should again be there to patrol and reinforce that. But Hanifaru Bay is open to everybody. There's no exclusivity to anyone. Liveaboards, resorts, whoever wants to visit it, and that's the idea of a marine protected area, of such a great resource that for everybody to appreciate and enjoy. Absolutely. Does it satisfy your question?
Now I have one more question that I see the patterns.
Right.
How sure can you be that these patterns don't change during the time of year due to scars or aging?
Right. These are the two assumptions. One is that there's two assumptions based on the photo ID program. One is that pattern doesn't change during the life, and the other assumption is that all individuals have a different pattern. So far, we haven't encountered two individuals which have the same pattern, and so far, after more than 10 years of data collection, and actually data that go back to the 80s, because we have pictures of mantas taken from magazines or from submissions of early divers in the country that dates back to 1986, 87. Those mantas are still seen today, so 30 years later, those patterns haven't changed. And also photo identification is used for megafauna all around the world, whale sharks, as well as nurse sharks, mammals as well, cetaceans as well, and those patterns don't change for most of these animals. So it's still an assumption, but it's a pretty confident assumption.
Yeah, I'm asking because I just read an article that they overestimated the white shark populations because
Right.
they used the fin as identification, and then they found out actually that the fins can change dramatically.
Right. Well, in terms of manta spotting pattern, that doesn't seem to change.
Actually, on behalf of the students, especially the environmental students here, I'd like to thank the IUCN for arranging this. But I think it will be a very good thing if, I don't know if it is possible, but to arrange a physical, experience, to go there and just experience
Absolutely.
mantas and everything. I think if it is possible, IUCN can arrange a trip or sightseeing or something like that. I think these lectures are very helpful, but if you get that experience, it will be more than this.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you. And we have actually a volunteering program within the Manta Trust. So we are actually open to volunteers to come and experience the manta season with us, experience what surveying Hanifaru as well as the entirety of Ba Atoll, get involved in the educational program is. We've also been starting to talk with IUCN to develop even more this volunteering program to allow passionate people, students, to get directly involved in the work. So it's something that's been already going on, and it's continuing as well. We've already had last year 3 volunteers coming. One Maldivian guy is working full-time with the Manta Trust. He started as a volunteer, just as a passion, and now he's, I think, the most knowledgeable Maldivian about mantas. He's is really, really great guy. More and more, hopefully, one day, so that they can take over, as I said. Any other question? Nope. Okay. So, well, thank you very much. Really appreciate your presence, your question, raising some of good points, which certainly we will work on. And if you have any question, of course, feel free to contact me personally here. Visit the Manta Trust website if you want to learn even more about our projects, not only in the Maldives, but also all around the world. Thanks again, and have a good day. Thank you.